$45 billion. That is the number that stopped the world on December 1st, 2015. A tech founder wrote a letter to his newborn daughter. He pledged to give away 99% of his company's shares, nearly $45 billion, to make the world a better place. The press called it historic. Politicians praised it. Millions shared it. Nobody read the fine print. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative is not a foundation. It is not a charity. It is a limited liability company, an LLC, fully controlled by Mark Zuckerberg and Priscilla Chan. The assets are not irrevocably committed to anything. There is no independent board. There is no minimum payout requirement. The money does not legally have to go anywhere. It is, structurally, the most flexible personal holding vehicle a billionaire can build. And it generated more goodwill than anything Facebook's public relations team had ever produced. That is not a coincidence. That is the business model. To understand how the halo works, you have to understand why we want it to exist. The idea that great wealth should be returned to society is very old. Andrew Carnegie wrote about it in 1889. He called it the gospel of wealth. The man who built a steel monopoly, who crushed unions and paid workers poverty wages, argued that the duty of the rich was to give it all back before they died. Carnegie funded 2,500 public libraries. His name is still on concert halls. John D. Rockefeller, Standard Oil, the company that dominated 90% of American oil refining, endowed the University of Chicago. His foundation helped eradicate hookworm in the American South. His name is on a plaza in New York City. The pattern is not new. What is new is the scale, the speed, and the sophistication with which it operates. In 2010, Bill Gates and Warren Buffett launched the Giving Pledge, a public commitment signed by the world's wealthiest individuals to donate the majority of their fortunes to philanthropy. By 2023, more than 200 billionaires had signed it. The combined wealth represented over $1 trillion. The pledge is not legally binding. There is no enforcement mechanism. There are no penalties for non-compliance. But it felt like something had changed, like power had developed a conscience. We wanted to believe that, badly. The modern playbook has a specific origin date, May 18, 1998. That is when the United States Department of Justice, joined by 20 states, filed suit against Microsoft Corporation, alleging violations of the Sherman Antitrust Act. The case concerned Microsoft's Windows monopoly, the bundling of Internet Explorer, and a pattern of contracts designed to exclude competitors from the market. The trial ran from October 1998 through June 1999. It was ugly. Bill Gates was deposed for 3 days. The footage became famous, evasive, contemptuous, sometimes absurdist. The judge, Thomas Penfield Jackson, found that Microsoft had engaged in monopolization, attempted monopolization, and illegal tying. He ordered the company broken in two. The appeals court overturned the breakup in June 2001. A settlement followed in November. No structural remedy, just behavioral constraints. Microsoft walked away intact. And then something remarkable happened. Bill Gates began to disappear from Microsoft, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation began to grow. By the mid-2000s, the Gates Foundation had become one of the most powerful private institutions in the world, operating in global health, agricultural policy, education reform. It would go on to provide more development assistance to some countries than their own governments received. The public memory of the antitrust villain receded. The philanthropist arrived to take his place. The template was complete. On December 1st, 2015, Priscilla Chan and Mark Zuckerberg had a daughter. They named her Maxima Chan Zuckerberg, Max. That same day, Zuckerberg posted an open letter on Facebook addressed to her. It was 5 pages long. It spoke of equal opportunity, of curing disease, of connecting the world. It pledged to give away 99% of his Facebook shares over their lifetimes, to advance human potential and promote equality for all children in the next generation. At the time of the announcement, those shares were worth approximately $45 billion. The letter went viral within hours. It trended globally. Major newspapers ran it above the fold. The response was overwhelmingly emotional. A tech billionaire, on the day of his daughter's birth, had thought of every child in the world. Here is what most people did not read. The Chan Zuckerberg Initiative was incorporated as a limited liability company. The Stanford Social Innovation Review noted that a Philanthropy LLC, quote, offers donors unparalleled control compared to tax-exempt charities, and allows founders to exit in ways they could not from a traditional foundation. Forbes noted plainly, Zuckerberg will still control the Facebook shares owned by the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. The pledge was not an irrevocable transfer to charity. It was a promise to himself, structured as a vehicle he controls, to eventually direct his wealth through his own company, on his own timeline, with his own priorities. As of today, the CZI has distributed approximately $7.2 billion in grants since 2015. The remaining $37 billion is still in the vehicle. Read the fine print. The halo did not stop working after December 2015. It compounded. In September 2016, the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative announced a $3 billion investment in science over the next decade, with $600 million committed immediately to create the BioHub, a medical research center linking Stanford, UCSF, and UC Berkeley. The headlines were extraordinary: a future without disease. Zuckerberg, the philanthropist, was in full operation. Meanwhile, Silicon Valley Philanthropy was developing its own structural immune system. Donor-advised funds, financial accounts that confer an immediate tax deduction while allowing donors to decide later where the money goes, were exploding in size. By 2015, these funds held over $2.2 billion in Silicon Valley alone. That was a 946% increase from 2005. Donor-advised funds have no minimum annual payout requirement. You can claim the deduction, park the money, let it grow tax-free, give it away on your own schedule, or not. A 2016 report called The Giving Code examined where Silicon Valley philanthropic dollars actually went. 7%. That is the share that stayed in Silicon Valley. Less than half of that reached the kind of local, community-based organizations that serve the people living in the shadow of the industry's wealth. In 2017, 60% of the 50 largest individual charitable gifts in the United States came from technology industry figures, up from 25% just 4 years earlier. The giving was real. The need in the surrounding community was also real. The two things rarely intersected. In March 2018, a British consulting firm called Cambridge Analytica was revealed to have harvested the personal data of approximately 87 million Facebook users, without their knowledge or consent. The data was used to build psychological profiles and target political advertising during the 2016 US presidential election. The scandal broke fast. Regulators moved. Congress summoned Mark Zuckerberg to testify. On April 10, 2018, Zuckerberg sat before the United States Senate Commerce and Judiciary Committees. The room was full. The cameras were everywhere. This was the accountability moment. And then something strange happened. Senators arrived unprepared. Some were visibly confused about how Facebook operated. Senator Orrin Hatch asked how Facebook sustained itself financially if users don't pay for it. Zuckerberg paused. Then, carefully, he said, "Senator, we run ads." The room held 89-year-old institutional authority, and the product at the center of it, a system that had harvested the behavioral data of 2 billion people, that had monetized human attention at a scale no previous media company had imagined, was largely beyond the senator's technical grasp. But here is the thing the cameras missed. The deference was not only about technical confusion, it was about the halo. Zuckerberg had given, or pledged to give, $45 billion to humanity. He had done so on the day his daughter was born. He ran the Chan Zuckerberg Initiative. He was one of the most publicly generous figures in the world. In that room, in that moment, the senators knew what kind of person they were dealing with. They had been told, many times, by the press, by the foundation's communications team, by the culture. The FTC eventually filed its antitrust case against Facebook in 2020. It took 6 years. The case was dismissed once, refiled, litigated for years, and ultimately lost in November 2025. When a federal court found the agency had failed to prove Meta held a monopoly. The halo did not cause the FTC to lose, but it helped shape the years of perception, the public patience, the political hesitancy, the ambient softness toward a man who had already told us on the day his daughter was born what kind of person he was. The pattern did not stop with Facebook. In February 2020, Jeff Bezos announced the Bezos Earth Fund, a pledge of $10 billion for climate action by 2030. The headlines were enormous. The richest man in the world was fighting climate change. At the same moment, Amazon, the company that generated the $10 billion, was under significant pressure. In December 2020, the National Labor Relations Board found Amazon had illegally fired 2 employees in retaliation for organizing union activity. Amazon's reported carbon dioxide emissions in 2021 reached 71.5 million metric tons, an 18% increase from 2020, and 40% higher than the baseline year when Amazon had pledged to reach net zero by 2040. By 2024, the Bezos Earth Fund had distributed approximately $2 billion, roughly 20% of the pledge. The remaining $8 billion is still in the fund. The gap between pledge and action is not a betrayal, it is the feature. The headline is the $10 billion. The distribution timeline is the fine print, and then came the version that made the whole machinery visible. Sam Bankman-Fried called himself an effective altruist. He promoted a philosophy called earning to give. Accumulate as much money as possible so you can give as much as possible away. He was celebrated by the effective altruism movement, featured in profiles, praised as a model of high-impact giving. In February 2022, FTX, his cryptocurrency exchange, launched the FTX Future Fund. In under 9 months, it distributed over $160 million to effective altruism causes. In November 2022, FTX collapsed. It held less than $1 billion in liquid assets against $9 billion in liabilities. Customer losses reached approximately $11 billion. The Securities and Exchange Commission alleged in formal filings that Bezos, that Bankman-Fried, had used FTX customer funds as, quote, a personal piggy bank, financing charitable contributions alongside trading losses and private investments. On March 28, 2024, Sam Bankman-Fried was sentenced to 25 years in federal prison for defrauding hundreds of thousands of people. The philanthropy was real. The money was not his. This is what the system looks like when someone takes it all the way to the end. It is tempting to end here by calling these men frauds or hypocrites or villains. That would be the easy reading, and the easy reading is almost always wrong. Some of the giving is genuine. The science that gets funded is real. The libraries that Carnegie built still stand. The disease research that Gates has supported has saved lives. The climate grants are deposited into real accounts. The uncomfortable question is not whether the giving is sincere. It is whether sincerity is the point. The pattern that follows you out of this room is simpler than a conspiracy. It does not require bad intentions. It only requires a system that rewards the performance of generosity more than its distribution. Every time a tech founder pledges a number large enough to generate headlines, we stop asking what generated the number in the first place. We share the post. We feel something. We reduce our scrutiny, not because we are deceived, but because we want to be. The halo works because we need it to work. We need to believe that the same intelligence that built the empire also has the wisdom to undo its consequences. We need the letter to the newborn daughter to be what it says it is. On December 1st, 2015, a man sat in a room and wrote a letter that changed how the world saw him without changing anything about the structure that made him powerful. And we called it generosity. Read the fine print.